Cooper from Coheed and Cambria, and you're listening to the Mosh Pit on Sin.
Zach Cooper is a bass player who once played in a band called AM to AM. At the moment, he is the bass player for New York progressive rock band Coheed and Cambria. The band's latest album, The Color Before the Sun, came out in October, and the band will be headlining shows in Australia in May. Welcome to Mosh Pit, Zach.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. So, what has the reaction been to The Color Before the Sun?
The reaction's been overwhelmingly positive, actually. At the shows, people are really excited to hear the new material, and it's just been going over great.
Excellent. So, you were a big fan of the band before you joined, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I am from the same area as the rest of the guys in the band, so they were kind of hometown heroes.
You've played on quite a bit of material since you joined the band in 2012, playing on the 2 Afterman records. So, at this point, have you found your feet with the band?
I think so. I hope so. Having done the Afterman records and then coming into The Color Before the Sun, that process was, being a little more involved in it. I think that I definitely kind of finally found my footing in the band.
You're not Claudio, of course, but all of the band's previous albums have been concept albums based on The Armory Wars, which is a comic book series written by frontman Claudio Sanchez. The band name Coheed and Cambria refer to these characters from these stories. So, why is this album neither a concept? It's not a concept record, and it doesn't even bear any relation to The Armory Wars at all. Do you know why that is?
Yeah, well, I have an idea of why it is. This album kind of came together. It's a very autobiographical album for Claudio. He had gone through a lot of stuff in the I think 2 years before, or a year before we made this record. And it's a collection of songs kind of about his life, going through that time. His, finding out that he and his wife Chandra were pregnant. So you've got like fatherhood coming around, and he had his house in New York that he rented out. People were using it as a grow house, so there was a big like illegal drug operation going on there. So that was pretty crazy, and so all these things were happening in his life, and he was just kind of writing material that he wasn't. I don't think he was really writing it to be a Coheed record. But when he kind of started presenting some of these songs to the rest of us, all of us were really excited about them. So we just started working on it, and it's just kind of, it didn't need a concept because it's so autobiographical. I believe, anyway.
Do you know if the band is maybe done with The Armory Wars as concepts to write music on, or is it just a detour, this album?
Yeah, I think this album's just a detour. I don't think the band will ever be totally done with The Armory Wars. It's such a huge part of the band and the legacy of the band. And I know Claude has said that he's definitely not done with it. So, I couldn't see a future where we didn't revisit the concept.
Now, this is the first album that the band recorded live. So, how did you find that experience, Zach?
It was really fun, actually. We essentially, we did the record in Nashville, and the studio was actually an old church that was converted into a studio, and we went in. We spent a couple of weeks beforehand fleshing the material out, so we were all super prepared. Everybody had kind of a good idea of what they were kind of going for with each of the songs, and we went in and we tracked a song a day. So we'd go in the morning and play through the song like 8 or 9 times, find the best take, kind of get a rough mix of it, fix any little things we had, and then Claude would track vocals after lunch. So it was really fun, and it was a really fast process. The whole record was tracked in 10 days. It was awesome. I had so much fun doing it that way. There was just this like great chemistry and a really exciting kind of vibe in the room when we were tracking. So it was an awesome experience. I hope we do another record like that, actually.
As a bass player, how has your technique and style evolved over the years through Coheed and Cambria and your other musical projects?
I would say that my style, I hope it's matured. I don't know if it has. I hope it has, though. When I was younger, I had a tendency to play a lot of unnecessary stuff. Now I kind of try to support the song as best I can and play, melodically, but not to try and take away from anything else that's happening. To be like a support player, but also to add something, not just like thud along on like a root note or something like that. So I mean, every song is different, every situation is different. So I try to serve the song the best I can. I guess that's really the best way I can answer that.
It could be perhaps difficult for you to figure out that balance, considering Coheed is a prog band and there's a lot of things going on.
Yeah, it definitely gets tricky. I mean, there are times where I can let loose, and obviously the rest of the guys encourage that and are excited about that, and so am I. But especially with this new record, The Color Before the Sun, a lot of it was a little more subdued and not as like technical, so to speak. Like not as much like kind of technical playing going on. So I definitely kind of went for a much more supportive, melodic role in that.
Awesome. So Claudio is the brains behind the band and the Army Wars. So what's it like working with him? Is he like a creative genius?
He's brilliant, but beyond like his brilliance and his like creativity and everything like that, he is one of the hardest working guys I have ever met in my life, and it's like a constant inspiration to be around him. When we're on the road, he's working on comic books. He's writing stories. He just wrote, they just announced they're releasing a children's book. He's working on music. He's always working, and sometimes I feel a little self-conscious when we have a day off on tour, and I see him getting off the bus with a guitar and like a little recording rig to go work in a hotel room, and all I want to do is take a shower and like go eat some food. And, you know what I mean? But it's amazing, and it's inspiring to be around him for sure. To be around all the guys, Travis and Josh too. Like they're just always working on stuff and like hard-working, creative people, and it's really exciting for me to be a part of a group like that. Like we just finished a long tour in the U.S., and Josh went home for a couple of days and went right back on the road in a car to do a Weird Science tour. Like, these guys are just so driven. I can't help but be inspired by all of them.
Can you tell us about that children's book?
I don't know too much about it. It has been announced. I know Evil Inc. announced it. Kid Crazy and the Kilowatt King, I think it is. I a while back read like one of the drafts, and it was awesome. But I don't really remember too much about it. But I'm excited to read it now that it's done. All the artwork is done.
Does it have anything to do with the band at all, or is it just another one of these little side projects?
Yeah, just another story. Sort of like they did Translucid, and they did, the Key to Z and Kill Audio. He's got like all these stories. Claude is a really gifted storyteller, and he tells stories in all these different mediums. And it was kind of an interesting thing to hear, like his take on a children's book. It was really cool.
Awesome. Now the band will be touring Australia in May. So what can fans expect from the shows?
I think we're going to be playing a lot of music, a lot of material off The Color Before the Sun, and a fair amount of stuff, sprinkled from the band's catalog. Hopefully some old favorites, hopefully stuff that, fans will be excited about.
As for yourself, Zach, so what music influenced you growing up besides Coheed, of course?
Oh, I have listened to a lot of different music my whole life. At a young age, when I first started playing the bass, because I started out on bass and started on guitar, I was a big fan of John Paul Jones. So, I would learn Zeppelin records front to back. That was, where I kind of drew most inspiration when I was a kid. And then growing up, I got into, a lot of punk bands, metal bands. I started listening to jazz. I just kind of went all over the place, just listening to whatever excited me. So I've been kind of all over the map. So it's hard to kind of narrow it down, I guess.
Do you have a favorite song from The Color Before the Sun, and why?
I do, and it's it seems to be the least favorite song of like the fans. But my favorite song on the record is "Young Love." Something about that song reminds me of the music that I was really excited about when I was young. There's like like a beautiful kind of simplicity, and there's a lot of space in the song. And then the choruses just feel like open, and there's this like playing that song with Josh. There's this kind of pocket and groove. It was kind of a slower tempo. It was just always a lot of fun to just kind of lock into it. I don't know why, but that's my favorite song. Also, in the first chorus, Travis plays this lead that's like my favorite thing on the whole record. I don't even really know why, but every time I hear it, I tell him that.
Now there was word of a feature film being made on the Armory Wars. Do you know anything about that? How it's coming along?
I know that they had signed a deal with Leverage, and I think that deal has come and gone. I'm not sure. I'm not really a part of all that stuff, but I don't think that anything ended up happening. The deal was, I think Leverage was going to shop the story, and I don't think anything ever ended up like really coming of it. But there's always a chance that something is happening that I just don't know about. So I'm not the definitive word on that, unfortunately.
It'd be pretty cool though, a film based on the Armory Wars.
Hell yeah, man, that would be awesome.
Coheed and Cambria's latest album, The Color Before the Sun, is out now, and fans can get tickets for their Australian shows in May. Zach Cooper, it was great to talk to you.
Great talking to you too, Stefan. Thanks so much, man.
One of my really good friends was obsessed with Coheed and Cambria, possibly even more so than you were in high school. And I had this other friend who used to say to him, "Go Heat and go home." Have you ever heard that before? So go hard or go home, go Heat or go home.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that before?
I have, yeah.
Oh, really? People have said that before.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've heard that. Yeah.
Oh, so do you guys use it like when you're performing or when you're writing music?
No, not really.
That's all right. And do you think that do you agree with me that the beginning of Welcome Home sounds a bit like the Tetris theme?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I hear that for sure. Actually, you know what's funny, man? On this last tour, we our lighting guy, the Greek, he brings out his PS4, his PlayStation, and we would do these we would play Tetris against each other. It's really nerdy and kind of silly, but like they have like a battle mode in Tetris now, and we would do these Tetris battles. And hearing it so much, I think multiple people commented on how it like might as well be Welcome Home. Like, it's pretty funny.
The Welcome Home.
Not that it's not, obviously not that it is Welcome Home, but that that like minor riff and everything like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's definitely a similarity there, for sure.